Hey guys, so I'm not gonna lie, of pretty much all the manga chapters I've read, I think this is the one where I'm actually kind of pissed off that this chapter is gonna be the last chapter of the year, for pretty much no other reason than that ending, frankly. But I'm not. Let's just get into it because one of the big reveals with this chapter is that through Rebecca's conversation with Noah, it's all but confirmed Rebecca is tapping into like the multiverse with her power, which I think we all pretty much knew. This was just like confirmation and giving us more detail on it. But one of the biggest things we glean from that is that there are two different ways it happens. When Rebecca uses reverse, there are very little to no changes that actually happen because she's only jumping to a certain section within time and space. So it doesn't actually affect the universe as a whole, and only minor differences at best. And these small jumps are what's called worlds, whereas Cat Leaper itself is where she's jumping into an entirely different universe. And with us getting that confirmation on the latter, we all have the exact same question as Rebecca. When did she make the jump to Universe 3? Because honestly, given the timeline, I wager to guess it happened sometime during her suicidal attempts at using her power to save Witch, or it pretty much happened, or it happened sometime during the, it happened something like pretty much during the, after, when Prince Nero 66 even exploded in itself. Like I think it either happened after it exploded or during the explosion when Witch was basically protecting everyone, and her power kind of activated like subconsciously at that point. So even though Witch's death was something she couldn't fix, she still ended up leaping into Universe 3. Now, her forgetting this happened is where things get interesting, because the common through line Mashima seems to be going for with Rebecca's power is every time a major change happens with it, she seems to have forgotten it happened or not be aware it happened. So keeping that in mind, I have to believe that Rebecca's powers have gone through another awakening, whether she's gained just another offshoot kind of technique along with reversing Cat Leaper, or if she's already awakened her overdrive is the $1,000,000 question. And I'm inclined to believe in the latter right now, because as what we see being discussed in this chapter would be a clever way for Mashima to narratively say her power awakened off panel, while still saving the reveal for when he reveal of her overdrive when he thinks it's appropriate for the moment. Um, with that said, we're headed into a full-on confrontation with Ziggy and the Dark Stars, which, contrary to what Ziggy says, I have my doubts this will be the final battle against him. However, there's two things I'm really curious about getting like being but seeing get explored with this particular setup. The first is that this will be the first real test of Shiki's resolve, because leading up to the time skip, Shiki has talked a big game about not caring who Ziggy was then and focusing on who he is now and stopping him from destroying the universe. But the thing is, even though Shiki has more or less lived up to that over the past 3 years, a direct confrontation would allow us to see just how emotionally ready Shiki actually is to face Ziggy at this point. Like it'll give us a measure of like if whether or not Shiki has actually gained the ability in order the will in order to actually oppose his grandfather at this point, and just not really even and put his own feelings aside in order to save the world, the universe kind of thing. Now, the other thing I'll be curious about is after seeing the mass army of Ziggy's warbots, it's definitely set up that a lot of the initial parts of this new arc are going to require a bit more subterfuge before they go immediately like wrecking house. I don't care, I don't care how powerful Shiki thinks he is or has become against against large numbers like that. He and the others would eventually be overwhelmed. And knowing that, I really want to see how Shiki's approach to this will how Shiki's approach to this will differ compared to how he handled like so many other instances before, just rushing into battle without a plan. And and just seeing Shiki's approach and seeing how that will differ because how he approaches this compared to how like he handled Belial War is going to make or break the difference. Because but aside from that, though, I'll be curious. The only thing I'll be curious about is what the matchups are gonna look like, and just who is gonna be fighting with what Dark Star. In fact, honestly, I wouldn't mind if we got a couple team ups against Dark Stars, like two members of the Eden Zero crew like tackle just one of the Dark Stars, because it would go to show just how powerful they are. And that's, I especially want to see that, especially with Elsie also throwing herself into the mix. So like just with Elsie throwing herself into the mix, that could make for some very good like combos and battle dynamics, honestly. Of course, with the reintroduction of the Dark Stars, we also see the newest members, Killer Mark II. Like it's Killer Mark II and the others is I think what's the name? It's like Brigadine Mark II. And yeah, I'll be honest, these new characters designs for Brigadine and Killer are a vast improvement over their predecessors. Like the thing about Killer and Brigadine before is that they looked like, honestly, frankly to me, they looked like the lamest designs that Mashima had ever created for when it came to the Dark Stars. Well, this new Killer and Brigadine not only look more unique, but definitely already seem like they have a lot more personality to them as well. Which it's one of those switch ups that almost makes me wonder if Mashima intentionally killed the previous versions of these characters off, because he himself also realized how much he wasn't a fan of how he designed them or how he conceptualized them. So he decided he needed a hard refresh on them. So he made it where pretty much Jaguar like killed them off, and where Jaguar killed them off, and then gave him the opportunity to kind of restart again with them. With that said, getting back to the whole world universe exploration we get in this chapter, it like with a lot of what we explore with the whole world universe concepts, this kind of makes this version of Connor even more suspicious than any of the previous ones. Especially when you look at the size, scope, and just overall like security of Ziggy's operation on this planet, it just makes me wonder even more just how this version of Connor even managed to escape. Like, maybe I'm being paranoid, but it just everything we see of this planet so far, Connor's story just doesn't check out to me anymore, and frankly, I have to assume that any version of Connor is just not wholly innocent or good intention. Like, something about this Connor is fishy, and I got my concerns about him. And what especially makes me realize this is the ominous way that Mashima wrote Rebecca's bit of hoping everyone finds their happy ending in Universe 3. Yeah, that's just wishful thinking on Rebecca's part. So yeah, I'm not sure what to think about that. Now, with that said, let's talk about the planet itself, Lendard, I think, because the thing about Lendard is that I got into a three-way debate a while back with a couple of followers. You know who you are, and it's basically about the idea that Mashima is confirming, and the debate was basically around this idea that Mashima is conforming his style to fit with the anime, so he's not being as creative with these planet designs anymore, and a bunch of other stuff as he used to be. At least not in comparison to something like, say, the earlier portions of the series with like Sun Jewel and all that. And I'm not gonna pretend like it's not happening, but honestly, for me, as long as he keeps the environments of the planets themselves interesting, I don't have too much of a problem with the more minimalist designs. But besides, when it comes to Lendard itself, despite looking like a traditional planet, it's still unique enough, in my opinion, to stand out. And honestly, I think even someone as creative as Mashima would at some point hit some kind of a creative wall eventually. And while I'm not going to put words in his mouth or even imagine what he's thinking or what he's doing, if he were to make any kind of sacrifice or change, I imagine he would be okay with being more minimalistic in that area of planetary design. And honestly, the design of Lendard is still unique enough. Now, if the tone now, where I will start being a little more critical and draw the line is if he tones down the more violent elements of the story. That's where I think the problem is going to start. Problems are going to start in my mind. But that's just my take on it. I'll leave you guys to discuss in the comment section. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and on Crunchyroll. Hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.